There are places in the world that defy their own history. Structures so immense, so precise, they force us to question the story we have been told. The Corinth Canal in Greece is one of those places. We are taught it is a marvel of 19th century engineering, a testament to human will, carved from solid rock with dynamite and steam. But this story, the one written in our textbooks, begins to crumble under the slightest pressure. The official record claims that between 1881 and 1893, a French company excavated over 12 million cubic meters of rock to create this passage. They tell us this was done with the tools of the era: steam shovels, rudimentary drills, and explosives. But when we look closer, the official narrative is not just improbable. It is a mathematical impossibility. The scale of the work, the precision of the cut, and the time frame allotted do not match the technology they claim to have used. It's not a matter of opinion. It's a matter of physics, of logistics, of numbers that do not add up. In this investigation, we will dismantle the official story of the Corinth Canal piece by piece. We will analyze the machines, the logistics, and the sheer volume of earth they claim to have moved. And we will present the evidence that suggests the canal was not built the way they tell us. The question is not how they managed such a feat. The question is, what technology did they really use, and why was it erased from history? Observe the Corinth Canal. From above, it is a perfect, linear scar across the isthmus. A ruler's straight channel of impossible blue water cleaving the land in two. It doesn't follow a natural fault line. It doesn't curve or bend. It is a statement of intent, imposed upon the landscape. But it's when we descend from the sky and witness the canal from within that the true anomaly reveals itself. The walls. They are not the gently sloping banks of a typical man-made waterway. They are sheer, vertical cliffs, rising up to 80 meters, the height of a 26-story building. Look at the texture. While weathered by time, the original cut is remarkably clean. The lines are too straight. The angles are too perfect. We are told this was achieved with dynamite. But dynamite shatters. It fractures. It leaves behind a jagged, chaotic surface. A dynamite blast powerful enough to break apart this much rock would not produce such a uniform, near-perfect 90-degree wall. Compare this to other 19th century constructions. Look at the railway cuts from the same era. Look at the quarries. They are messy, uneven, and defined by slopes designed to prevent collapse. They bear the brutal signature of their creation. The Corinth Canal does not. It looks less like an excavation and more like a surgical incision. There's a precision here that feels alien to the era. A geometric purity that the documented tools simply cannot explain. How could steam shovels, swinging on cables, crawling on rails, create such a featureless, vertical plane? They are designed to scoop, to dig, not to mill a flat surface on a rock wall 80 meters high. The visual evidence is the first clue. It presents us with a direct contradiction. We are shown a 19th century structure that does not look like it was made with 19th century methods. It's too clean. It's too steep. It's too precise. The canal itself is silently testifying against its own origin story. Before we even touch the numbers, our own eyes tell us that something is wrong with the picture we have been given. To accept the official story, one must accept a logistical chain of events that borders on the absurd. Let us walk through the process as described by history. The task: removed 12 million cubic meters of a conglomerate of limestone, marl, and clay from a trench 6.4 kilometers long. The tools: dynamite, steam-powered drills, steam shovels, and a railway system to haul away the debris. First, the blasting. To create a vertical wall, controlled blasting is required. This means drilling hundreds, if not thousands, of boreholes into the rock face. Then, carefully placing the dynamite charges. This is slow, meticulous work. After the blast, the air would be thick with dust and debris. Time must be allowed for it to settle before men and machines can re-enter the hazardous zone. Only then can the second phase begin: removal. The steam shovels of the 1880s were mechanical behemoths, but they were not agile. They ran on temporary railway tracks that had to be laid and relaid as the excavation deepened. Each shovel required a constant supply of coal for its boiler and water for its steam. This meant a secondary logistics network operating in parallel with the debris removal, all within the confines of an increasingly narrow and deep trench. Imagine the scene. Multiple steam shovels, each belching smoke, their steel buckets scraping against the rock. But a steam shovel cannot simply place the debris anywhere. It must load it into something. That something was a train of small, side-tipping railcars known as dump cars. This means that for every single steam shovel, there needed to be a railway line right beside it, at the correct height, ready to receive the load. As the canal floor descended meter by meter, the entire rail network, both for the shovels and the dump cars, had to be lowered with it. This is a monumental engineering task in itself, performed concurrently with the excavation. And where did the debris go? The official account says it was used to fill in other areas or dumped into the sea. 12 million cubic meters. This is not a small pile of dirt. It is enough rock to create a man-made mountain. This would require a massive, dedicated fleet of trains running constantly, day and night, from the excavation site to the dumping grounds. Every single day, hundreds of train cars would need to be filled, transported, emptied, and returned. This ballet of machines and men, operating in a dusty, dangerous, and ever-deepening canyon, had to be sustained for 12 straight years. Breakdowns were common. Accidents were frequent. The 19th century technology was notoriously unreliable. Yet the official narrative asks us to believe that this impossibly complex operation proceeded with an efficiency that even modern projects would struggle to achieve. The practical reality of the work presents a scenario so complex, so fraught with bottlenecks, that the official timeline becomes unbelievable. When a story seems too fantastic to be true, we turn to the records. To the primary sources. The engineering logs, the company reports, the photographs taken to document the great work. But when we search for the detailed records of the Corinth Canal's construction, we find a curious emptiness. The official reports from the French construction company, the Société Internationale du Canal Maritime de Corinth, exist. But they are high-level summaries. They speak in broad terms of progress, of tonnage moved, of challenges overcome. They are shareholder reports, not engineering documents. They lack the critical details we would expect from a project of this magnitude. Where are the daily excavation logs? Where are the records detailing how many cubic meters each team removed per day? Where are the maintenance reports for the dozens of steam shovels that were supposedly in operation? Where are the railway manifests detailing the number of debris trains that left the site each day, their cargo, and their destination? These are not trivial documents. They are the fundamental data of any major construction project. Their absence is deeply suspicious. Then there is the photographic record. We have many photographs of the Corinth Canal, but most of them are from its completion, or show it in a near-finished state. We see posed groups of workers standing proudly with their tools. We see dignitaries celebrating the opening. We see a few photos of a steam shovel here, a rail line there. But what we do not see are photographs that capture the true scale of the alleged operation. Where are the wide shots showing 20 steam shovels operating at once? Where are the images of the complex, multi-level railway system descending into the trench? The existing photos fail to corroborate the logistical story. They show small, isolated scenes of activity, not the massive industrial operation that the numbers demand. The narrative feels curated. It feels like a story constructed after the fact, using a few carefully selected images to represent a process that may not have happened as described. The official story fails because it is hollow. It lacks the evidentiary backbone required to support its extraordinary claims. It presents conclusions without showing the work. We are given a beginning and an end, but the middle, the 12 years of impossible labor, is a fog of vague statements and missing information. This is not how history is recorded. It is how history is manufactured. The Corinth Canal does not exist in a vacuum. When we widen our lens to the latter half of the 19th century, a distinct pattern begins to emerge. This was an era of unprecedented, world-altering mega-projects, often completed at speeds that challenge belief, using technology that seems stretched to its absolute limit and beyond. Consider the first attempt at the Panama Canal, initiated by the same French diplomat, Ferdinand de Lesseps, who spearheaded the Suez Canal. The project was an infamous disaster, consumed by disease and insurmountable engineering challenges. They failed to tame the jungle. Yet, we are asked to believe that a similar French-led effort, in the same time frame, succeeded in cutting through kilometers of solid rock in Greece with relative ease. The contrast is jarring. Then look at the great Alpine tunnels. The Mont Cenis tunnel, connecting France and Italy, was completed in 1871. over 13 kilometers long, bored through solid mountain. The official story credits newly invented pneumatic drills. But the rate of progress and the logistical challenges of working deep inside a mountain raise the same questions of feasibility. The official histories of these projects share a common narrative thread. They are presented as triumphs of a new industrial age, monuments to human ingenuity and perseverance. They become foundational myths of our modern, technologically advanced civilization. But beneath the surface, they also share common anomalies. Vague or incomplete records. Timelines that seem impossibly optimistic. A curious lack of detailed photographic evidence of the most difficult stages of construction. It is a recurring motif. A great work is announced. A known technology is credited. The project is completed in a surprisingly short time. And the story is solidified in history as a heroic struggle against nature. Is it possible that the Corinth Canal is just one example of a broader phenomenon? A period in history where a technology existed that was not part of the public record. A technology that was deployed for specific, strategic projects, while its existence was concealed behind a plausible, if strained, cover story of conventional engineering. The pattern suggests we are not looking at an isolated anomaly. We are looking at a methodology. A template for executing impossible projects and then rewriting their history to fit the accepted narrative of the time. The sheer vertical walls of Corinth are not unique. They are a signature, and we may find this signature elsewhere if we know how to look for it. Let us set aside the photographs and the historical accounts. Let us engage only with the cold, hard logic of mathematics. The numbers do not have an agenda. They simply are. The official claim is the removal of 12 million cubic meters of earth and rock. The time frame was 12 years, from 1881 to 1893. A year has 365 days. So, 12 years is 4,383 days. If we divide the total volume by the total number of days, we get a required excavation rate of over 2,730 cubic meters. Every single day. This includes weekends, holidays, bad weather, and breakdowns. But let's be generous. Let's assume they work tirelessly 300 days a year. That gives us 3,600 working days over the 12-year period. The daily requirement then increases. 12 million divided by 3,600 is 3,333 cubic meters per day. Now, let's consider the machine. The most powerful steam shovels of that era, under ideal conditions, digging in soft soil, not solid rock, could perhaps move 200 to 300 cubic meters in a 10-hour shift. In the dense rock of the isthmus, a figure of 150 cubic meters per day would be extremely optimistic. So, how many steam shovels would be needed? 3,333 cubic meters per day, divided by 150 cubic meters per shovel, equals 22.2. Let's call it 22 steam shovels. We are being asked to believe that at least 22 massive steam shovels were operating at peak efficiency, every single working day for 12 years, inside a narrow trench. This does not even account for the time spent drilling and blasting the rock so the shovels could even begin to work. But the problem deepens when we consider debris removal. Let's take our daily figure of 3,333 cubic meters of rock. The typical dump cars used on these projects could hold, at most, 10 cubic meters. This means that every day, they had to fill and transport 333 railcars of rock. If a single train consisted of 20 cars, that is nearly 17 full trains leaving the site every day. And 17 empty trains returning to be filled. That is a train arriving, being loaded, and departing roughly every hour and a half, around the clock. This creates a railway operation of a scale and complexity that would rival a major city's transit system, all contained within the tight confines of the canal. Where is the evidence for such a massive, non-stop operation? Where are the records for the thousands of tons of coal needed daily to power these 22 shovels and 17 locomotives? The numbers are not merely challenging. They are absurd. They describe a level of industrial output that was simply not possible with the documented machinery of the 1880s. The math is the loudest witness. And it tells us the official story is false. If the official story is a mathematical impossibility, then we are obligated to form a new hypothesis. One that fits the evidence we have. The sheer walls, the clean cut, the impossible timeline. This does not require us to invent fantasies of ancient aliens or magic. The answer may lie in a more grounded, yet equally unsettling possibility: a controlled, unacknowledged technology. Let us propose a different sequence of events. The project is announced, and the tools of the era, steam shovels, dynamite, legions of workers, are brought to the site. This is the public face of the project. It provides a plausible narrative for newspapers, investors, and the history books. But the real work, the heavy lifting, is done by a different method, likely at night, or in sections cordoned off from public view. What could this technology be? Consider a machine that doesn't scoop, but cuts. A massive trenching machine, far more advanced than anything publicly known at the time, using hardened cutting heads or some other principle to shear directly through the rock. This would explain the vertical walls and the uniform surface far better than blasting and scooping. It would be faster, more efficient, and produce a cleaner result. Another possibility is a form of thermal or sonic technology. A device that uses intense heat or resonant frequencies to fracture and weaken the rock on a massive scale, turning it into something that could be easily cleared away by conventional machines. In this scenario, the steam shovels we see in the photos were not for primary excavation. They were for cleanup. Their role was to remove the pre-pulverized or pre-cut material, a far simpler task that aligns better with their known capabilities. This would also explain the lack of detailed records. If a secret technology was used, the entire project would be compartmentalized. The official engineers would write reports based on the cover story, while a separate, unrecorded team operated the real machinery. Why the secrecy? The reasons could be numerous. The technology could have been a proprietary invention of a powerful industrialist or corporation, its value too great to reveal. It could have been military in origin, tested in a civilian project far from the eyes of rival nations. Or, perhaps most unsettling, it could have been a rediscovered technology, something found rather than invented, with its true origins unknown. The official construction story was therefore not a lie born of malice, but a necessary fiction created to explain a result without revealing the method. It maintains the comforting illusion of linear, understandable technological progress, a narrative that underpins much of our modern worldview. We are left with a chasm, not only in the earth of Greece, but in our historical record. On one side, we have the story we are told, a heroic feat of 19th-century engineering. On the other, we have the evidence, the silent stone walls, the logistical contradictions, and the stark, incooperative mathematics. The two sides do not meet. The official narrative requires us to believe in a level of efficiency and industrial power that strains credulity. The numbers suggest a fantasy. The canal itself, with its precise, vertical walls, suggests a technology that was not supposed to exist. So, what truly happened on the Isthmus of Corinth between 1881 and 1893? What machine, or what method, carved that perfect channel? And if the story of the Corinth Canal is a fabrication, how many other chapters of our history are built on similar, hollow foundations? These are not comfortable questions. They challenge the very story we tell ourselves about who we are and how we got here. But the evidence demands they be asked. We are encouraged to marvel at the achievements of the past, but we are not encouraged to scrutinize them. We are told to accept, not to analyze. The truth, however, is not found in acceptance. It is found in the relentless pursuit of answers, no matter how unsettling they may be. The world is full of anomalies, hiding in plain sight. All that is required is that we choose to see them. The answers are not in the books they give us. They are in the questions we are willing to ask. If you believe we should keep asking them, you're in the right place.